Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Greater Freedom with me, your host, Nicola Charlotte. And today I'm joined by another wonderful guest, Claudia, who is a marketing strategist and passive income guru who helps her clients to grow and scale freedom-filled online businesses with organic marketing, passive income offers, and online courses. So lots of juicy topics to discuss today, which I'm really excited about. I don't think we've had a guest on the podcast yet who specializes in all things passive income and online offers and online courses. So I know this is going to be of very much interest to many of the listeners. Before we dive into a bit more about you and sort of how you've carved out, I guess, this sort of niche for yourself, please introduce yourself and explain a little bit more about what you do with your clients.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Nicola. So yeah, I'm a business and marketing strategist, and as you just introduced me, I love to help my clients essentially build a freedom-filled business, and that's one of my biggest values is freedom, because it's one of the reasons I started my business. But I tend to find that a lot of online business owners, they start to have success in their business, but they get to a point where actually they are working so much, they start to get really burnt out, and actually they don't have the time freedom that they set out to get in their business. Whether that is because they've taken on too many clients, or they've just built a business model that doesn't align with the vision of freedom anymore. And I like to help them build a completely different business model where they can have time freedom as well as financial freedom, and live a life where they can truly enjoy themselves alongside their business. Many people get so wrapped up in their business that they don't have time or freedom to do anything else. But I actually think you should be able to do both. Have a business that you love and enjoy your life to the max, whether that is traveling the world, which is something that I'm passionate about, or whether that is building a family, creating a nice home, seeing more of your friends. So yeah, that's exactly what I love to help with.
Oh, amazing. I feel like we're speaking each other's language, because that's exactly what I do with my work as well. As you say, it's creating a business that enables you to have the lifestyle that you love now, versus it being something that you have to hustle away at for 5, 10, 15 years, so that then you can enjoy a life where you've got the money to do the things that you love doing. And actually, we're able to have it all now. We're able to have a thriving business and have a lifestyle that we absolutely love. And as you say, it's about planning and creating a business model that reflects that. And something that I see, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this as well, is quite a few of my clients that come to me with this exact desire think that it's about adding more things in and creating more offers and producing more courses and adding more things to their belt. But actually, so often it's being more strategic and more streamlined of what works for you. What does your ideal day-to-day look like? And then is your business set up in a way that reflects that? And quite often there's that gap between, oh yeah, I'm actually looking for more freedom, but I've just brought on 3 more offers into my product suite, and that goes against exactly what I desire. So I'm assuming, but correct me if I'm wrong, that part of creating online courses and these passive income offers is exactly to open up to more freedom. So I'd love to hear a bit more about, is this something that you introduced in your own journey? If so, at what stage, and what's the difference that that's made for you or your clients?
Yeah, 100%. I resonate so much with what you just said in terms of streamlining. And I think so many business owners and, people lack clarity when they first start, in their first year or two even. So it can be a case of they're launching all these new offers, every single month. And sometimes they'll launch a course or an offer, and then they'll sell it once when they've launched, and then they won't sell it again, and they'll have to create something new. But I'm all about creating long-term and sustainable offers that you can scale up, that you can make. For example, you could introduce a signature offer that you become known for, right? And that you can keep building up and making this offer the best thing that you can for your students, for your clients, so that it can impact more, but also allow you that space and that freedom, right? Because like you said, we don't just need more and more things. We need to perfect what we already have. And that way you're going to impact more people, but you're also going to find ways to scale. One example of this is a lot of my clients are either service providers or coaches. And one thing that can really help to scale up is creating a larger signature program that is higher ticket, but can help a large number of people at the same time. And it's evergreen. So you can bring on people anytime in the year. It's not just when you're launching, because again, launching takes time and it can be exhausting, and not everybody wants to do that every single month. But if you have an evergreen offer where you can serve many people at the same time, that is a really scalable way to build more freedom in your business.
And thinking back to when you were building up your business, I guess, as you said, to the point now where you're traveling the world and you're fulfilling that side of your desires and your lifestyle goals, at what point did you transition into a more passive, well, not passive, but sort of evergreen model, I suppose? Or is it something that you've always done and that's why you feel that it's sort of the route that you've gone down?
It was definitely a slow transition for me, and there's a lot of mistakes I made that I've definitely learned from and been teaching my clients. So my first group program that I had, it definitely wasn't evergreen. I was launching it every single time, and I definitely allowed my boundaries to slip with that one as well. It was a great program. It got results, but I was exhausted because I was doing way too much within it. It wasn't sustainable for me alongside the amount of one-to-one clients I was taking on as well. So I was actually traveling, but still working around 10 hours a day, sometimes also 7 days a week. So I wasn't actually able to enjoy my travels or enjoy the places that I was in. I was getting to a place where I was so burnt out. I just couldn't do this anymore. And this was even with a one-to-many offer, right? Which is not where I wanted to be. So I saw that I actually needed to make a change. I needed to not just have a group program, but run it in a way where it was still impactful to my students and my clients, but actually allowed me to grow still as a business owner and allowed me to have that freedom. So that's when I started to make the shift into a more passive model and a more evergreen model.
Yeah, as you say, it's always ironic, I think. So I've been in similar situations where, you left a corporate job or you set up a program or you've created this new course, and the reason why you're doing it is to create more freedom because it's that one-to-many model. But then before you know it, you're working more hours than ever before, you're burning yourself out, you're leaking energy. And I think it is important, as you sort of touched on earlier, it will depend on the individual as to how they want to launch or as to what type of program that they want to create. So if, let's say, we're thinking about the person who doesn't want to launch, every single month, is there, I guess, how would they identify what type of program or passive offer or evergreen course might be best suited to them? Or would you say it's more try things out, see how it feels, and then refine the next time?
I think this totally depends on quite a few different things. So it's going to depend on how you want your lifestyle to look. It's going to depend on the type of way that you love to serve your clients, right? My courses are mostly passive right now. However, I do have an element of coaching in them, but that's because I really do love coaching. I love being involved in my client's journey. And that's just how I like to do things. And I have other clients who like to do way more coaching and not as much passive because that's just what they love. And I have other clients who want it to be completely passive. So it completely depends on you as a person and what you enjoy and what you want the day-to-day of your business to look like and how that ties in with your lifestyle. It's also going to depend on things like your income goals. There's so many different factors, but I think definitely trying out different things is important, 100%. And when it comes to, outside of the actual delivery of these programs or courses, whatever you want to do, when you're looking at the things like the marketing, not everybody loves launches, and that's okay, but there are other ways to market your business other than just launches, right? I do think launching is important to get your offers out into the world and show visibility, but I genuinely don't believe you need to launch every single month or every other month. There are things that you can do to keep selling even when you're not launching, and for me, that's things like email marketing, which I think is a really important thing to have in your business, something that I use heavily. And the other thing is evergreen content that's going to reach people for months or years to come, just like this, just like a podcast or a YouTube channel or blogs, things like that, rather than just focusing on short form content, which is very disposable. It disappears after a very short period of time.
Yeah, that's so important. So I think typically people might think, oh, it means having to do a 10-day or 2-week launch, posting multiple times a day, showing up on stories, which is very draining on your energy if that's something that you don't enjoy. So thinking wider of where else is my audience or potential audience hanging out, what's going to be something that's a bit more passive, that some people might need a few months warming up to an offer, and then they think, actually, yeah, I'm ready, which I guess with the Evergreen, it suddenly makes it more appealing. And I'd be interested to know your thoughts, because this is definitely a mindset or headspace that I had, earlier on in my business journey, when I was thinking, oh, it'd be great to have a program or a course. And then my immediate thought was, that's going to require a huge amount of effort, because I'm going to have to find a platform that can host the course. I'm going to have to create all the modules in advance. I'm going to have to pre-record, X, Y, and Z number of videos. Now, I know that that's not true, because there's so many different varieties of, how you're teaching, how you're showing up, how many are live, how many are pre-recorded. But for people that are listening that are thinking, okay, maybe I'm ready to move into that space where my live time isn't reliant on the money that I'm generating, and perhaps a course or a short program might be the next step, but they have these reservations that I've just listed. What would you say to someone that is thinking that in that way?
It is a project. Won't sugarcoat it. It does require work. However, I think that the important thing here is to really connect with the vision behind why you want to do this. And for me, I could see when I started creating things like group programs and courses, for me, at the end of the tunnel, I could see, number one, I get to impact more people. Number two, I get to have more time so I can travel, which is my passion. And number three, I get to earn more money, right? And who doesn't want that? So when I know that there's a lot of work to be done up front without getting paid yet, I really connect to these visions and know that if I put everything I possibly can into this project and take all of the steps necessary, then I'm going to make it work. Even if the first time it doesn't happen, I learn from it. I figure out why it didn't work, what's gone wrong, and I try again. And that's always the kind of mindset actually I've had throughout my entire business with everything, not just this. And it can be overwhelming sometimes looking at a big project and thinking, what if it doesn't work out and I put all of this work in? But we could think that with anything, even with starting our business in the first place, we could think that. And a lot of you listening have probably started your business already and overcome that. So this is potentially a way that you're going to level up your business and take it to that next level and really scale up. So you really have to have that connect with the vision of why you're doing it, and almost have that same attitude you had when you started your business. Like, this is going to work if I put my all into it.
Yeah. And that links quite nicely to, as you said, it's the reason why you're doing it. So just because you see other people doing passive courses or multiple group programs a year, it doesn't mean that it's the right thing for you. But is it something that I want because it's going to open up more time or freedom? Is it because of the money? Is it because of the number of people that I get to impact versus the one-to-one? Having that reason why first, and then, as you say, going all in and really backing your offer. And I think that's something that I spoke about in the last episode with my last guest was, when you're fully behind your offer, that's when you're going to see the most success. Where if you're going sort of 50-50 in, not being fully confident or not being totally sure, then that's going to create that misalignment. And one of the things I remember being told in one of the first ever masterminds I did was, you don't have to pre-create, or maybe it's actually wise not to pre-create all the modules or content until you actually start, because that way, the people that have joined get to add their own ideas, or you get to ask them what they would really love to see in the course or program, so you can kind of curate it as you go along. But B, if a week before or a few days before launch it hasn't gone to plan, or you want to shift things up a little bit, change the duration, change the content, you've not created huge amounts of work, and then it sort of goes to waste, as it were. So I wonder if that's a similar approach that you take, or something that you advise your clients.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a couple of opinions on that, actually. So I do think that makes total sense. And I think if you are unsure at all about the topic, or you're unsure in any capacity what your target audience needs to hear in this course, then absolutely, I think it makes sense to maybe run it live the first time you do it. I think that really works well. And that's what I did with my first group programs, right? I ran them live the first couple of times. I learned so much from the people that were in the program, what questions they were asking, what they needed from me. And I took all of that. And then when I turned that part of the course passive, I had everything I needed to make an impact on them. I think, though, if you are in a place in your business where you've already worked with a lot of clients, and you are literally taking, for example, if you're a coach and you have a one-to-one program, you've worked with clients for a year, you know the journey, you know the questions that they ask, I think go for it and create your program or your course. Because one thing that I found is that actually, if you go to launch without having an offer created, that can actually affect the energy and the way that you show up and sell that offer, because it's something that doesn't exist yet. So I think the two scenarios, it depends on what your experience is and how much more insight or research you need into the content of the program.
Yeah, 100%. I agree, because if you've not created anything yet, the energy is almost a bit like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out, because actually I've not created anything yet. Or it's almost like that slight disbelief of like, is this going to be successful, and therefore not committing. So the way that I tend to do it is I'll create like the outline, I'll create the sort of the themes that I want to focus on say each week or each module or each call. Think of some really powerful tools or exercises that I think will be great to go through in that session. And then probably about a week before, probably about a week, I'll then actually do a bit of more of a filling in of like, okay, what am I going to talk about? What's in? So I know very clearly what we're going to cover, what I want people to come away from, what tools and strategies are going to help facilitate that. But then I keep it fluid in terms of, not writing a script or those sorts of things that I appreciate. Maybe if it's the first time you've done it, you might want a little bit of extra support. But based on that, what are some of the biggest blocks, or maybe sort of mindset blocks, or sort of mindset challenges that come up with your clients, maybe upon creating their first course or online program?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest one is obviously that it's not going to sell, or that the launch isn't going to go well. So that is definitely the biggest one. And obviously, that's a fear that most business owners have whenever they put out a new offer or a product or a service. And for this one, I would say you can really combat this by being super prepared and organized. So one thing that I teach is to really test your offer and course topic by doing really great market research with your target audience. The more you know about your target audience, the better that you can do with the creation of the program, but also the marketing of the program as well. So if you can nail the messaging, the marketing, the content, and nail the actual concept of the program, and that it is something that solves the problems of your target audience, it is going to sell if you tick all of those boxes. Okay. So if you're really prepared and you do all of that work to a high standard, the program is going to sell, especially if you follow a really great launch strategy. That's the first thing. The second thing that people get worried about is that their students are not going to like their course and they're going to ask for refunds. And which very, very rarely happens. I actually haven't ever seen a single one of my clients had someone ask for a refund. So it's a fear that a lot of people have, though. And the thing that I say to that is, well, put everything you can into this, like what is it? I always get this the wrong way around. Under promise and over deliver. And it's unlikely that people will ask for refunds. However, if something comes up and somebody's not happy, you can address that. You can get on a call with them and ask for their feedback and see what you can do to support them and help solve the problem that they're having. Because it's not that people buy the course and they just want a refund. They actually want you to help them solve the problem. So if you can still support them in some way in terms of getting them over whatever disappointment they have, then it's going to be great if you can come to them and really give them something to help them overcome that, right?
Yeah. And I think linking on to that as well, as the facilitator is asking for feedback throughout the course or program, and it can be done in a really nice way, whether it's the first time you've run it or the third time. Is how are you enjoying it? Is there anything else that you'd love to see? Is there anything else that, I can support you with in terms of keeping it open, but also giving people that opportunity? Maybe someone will provide an idea that you never even thought of before. And I think I've had that once, and I can't remember now off the top of my head what it was, but it was linked to some sort of like accountability tracker. And someone suggested, it'd be really helpful if we had a tracker that we could all use and hold each other accountable with. And I created something very simple on Google Sheets that was shared with everyone. And then I went on to use that in the next time. And it's like, actually, how great that people are able to give their live ideas towards curating a program that's even better than it was already. And that can be a really nice way of navigating that fear of, what if people don't like it? It's actually getting people involved as well.
100%. I think that's a great idea, actually. And I think it's really important to, especially if it's, say, a live program, don't ask for feedback after it's finished. Make sure you ask for feedback throughout. And even if you, like a month in or a week in, not depending on how long it is, even if you send a questionnaire shortly after the program begins or even halfway through, just make sure that people are enjoying it. Because the worst thing would be getting to the end of the program and then finding out somebody really wasn't happy and they didn't tell you.
Yeah, it's a bit like when you go to, I don't know, like a restaurant or a hotel, and then you leave like a negative review having not said anything. And it's like, well, that doesn't really help anything because you're probably not going to go back if you had an awful experience. But if you were there at the time and said, by the way, my food's cold, or actually the curtains in my room don't close, then you would have been moved room and you probably would have had overall a positive experience. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. Okay, amazing. So just moving slightly away from the technical side of like launching programs and online courses, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how any non-negotiables or boundaries that you have in place that enable you to travel the world. So you're in Dubai at the moment, you've been in Thailand, you were in Bali before then, that enable you to have this lifestyle where you're prioritizing your passion for travel as well as continuing to build the success of your business. I know a lot of listeners have that similar interest. I know I do myself as well. So I'd love to hear, anything, any practices, any rituals, any non-negotiables that help to facilitate that.
Yeah, so it's definitely been a process, because when I first started this, we first started traveling full time with the business probably a year ago yesterday. So it's been a full year. Yeah. So when I first started, we flew to Mexico first. And the very first mistake that we made was we started treating it like a holiday. And of course, when you turn up in Mexico and, the weather's nice and the beaches are beautiful, you instantly just feel like you're on holiday. But of course, when you're running a full-time business as well, that's not the case. And that's not how you should live the lifestyle. If you want to live it long term and sustainably, you need to not look at it as if you're on holiday every time you go to a new place. So now I've got much better at making sure that actually I'm in the places long enough where I can work during the week and take the weekends to explore the place that I'm in, or take the evenings even to explore the place that I'm in. I'm lucky that I don't actually have, I don't work long hours anymore. I don't necessarily always have to work 5 days a week. Sometimes it's 4 days a week. So I have the time to go out and explore. And part of that is because of the business model that I've built. Yeah. But yeah, making sure that I plan my time accordingly. And also, whenever I get to a new place, it's my number one priority to make sure that I get myself back into a schedule. If I don't do that straight away, it's really difficult for me to get focused and actually get work done. So for example, I'll get to a new place. I will try and find a gym so that I can get a morning workout in. When I do that, it kind of gets me into the flow of the day. I'll have breakfast and then I'll work. I usually get a lot of my work done in the mornings. That's when I'm most productive. Have lunch and then a bit of work in the afternoon, and then I normally finish. So as long as I stick to that routine, I'm generally quite productive and I'm able to get everything done. I schedule my calls only on Tuesdays and Thursdays usually. So I always know that those are the days that I tend not to be flying or moving around, because those days are always pretty much set.
Yeah.
So that is always really helpful to know that, I always have Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays available, so that if I need to travel somewhere else, I can. So all of these little things has really helped me as I've been moving around.
Yeah, I think that's so nice, and it makes me think of having those routines, that consistency, and having some of those foundations in place that are non-negotiable regardless of where you are. Things like, as you say, the morning workout or the calls on set days, so that you still do have the flexibility to travel, explore, but it's not chaotic. It's not, oh God, I forgot I'm doing this, and oh, I can't do that. It's actually a bit more intentionality, I guess, behind how you're traveling and where you're traveling. So yeah, I guess, and with time zones, then how do you navigate that? Or are most of your is most of your work relatively passive, so it's not as linked to hours on the call?
Yeah, so I do still have some calls. I have a few one-to-one clients and I do have a few group calls, but it's not too many now. So generally I can be quite flexible with time zones. My clients are quite flexible, but actually over the last 6 months or so, it's worked out quite well. So when I was in Bali, I think I would have calls in the evenings. It would be UK time in the morning. And as I've moved further this way, so I'm in Dubai now, I haven't had to change the times, because it's actually earlier here now and it's the same time in the UK. So it's actually been working out absolutely fine. I think when I was in Mexico, I might have had to move a couple of times around, but my clients are super flexible, and same, I'm quite flexible with them. If they ever need to change a call time or anything like that, I'm fine with it, because obviously I want this to work both ways. With my group calls, I actually fluctuate the times anyway, just because I do have clients in all different time zones. So I have to get times that work for everyone. So sometimes I would do an evening call, sometimes it's a morning call. So we just keep it as flexible as possible. And if I can, my one-to-one calls, I do tend to keep at the same time.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's about being flexible and having that communication. And I'm heading to Bali at the beginning of November. So I looked, I think it was yesterday or last week, and I was like, right, what client calls have I got over that time period? And actually most of them are in the morning anyway in the UK. So when I'm in Bali, it won't matter. But it's having that forward planning to a degree as well, of being like, okay, I know I'm going to be away. This doesn't impact my business. It doesn't mean I have to cancel calls or stop, new opportunities coming in. It's just being prepared for that. And I always think of this term, one of my friends who's similar to you, she's sort of full-time traveling whilst running her business. And she was saying how I think it's in Bali, or they probably use it in many places, but they refer to something as like tropical tax, which is basically the tax, in inverted commas, that you pay for living in Bali, which ultimately means, yes, you might have to take a call at 8 p.m., because you've got a client that's based in the UK, but actually you're in Bali and you can go to the beach in the morning. So it's not that big a deal. It's just like the tropical tax that you pay for living somewhere like Bali, which I don't know about you, I'd be very happy to work with.
Yeah, I actually did enjoy the time zone in Bali. I'm not gonna lie. I do enjoy my mornings and having a long morning to myself. So it's nice to be able to start work a bit later. So yeah, that was
That's
nice.
something for people to think about as well. It's like, what parts of the day do you enjoy most? Where, you know, would you love to have a morning that's more open without client calls, and actually maybe go into a destination that lends itself to that based on where most of your clients based? Could be a nice way of choosing the next location that you want to move to and work from. So yeah. But thank you so much for joining. It's been great to speak to you and learn more about all things passive income, online courses, building a freedom-based business, and how you help your clients do that as well. So thank you so much for your time. For people that are listening, where is the best place to find you and connect with you? Please share your details, and I'll leave them in the show notes as well.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so the best place is probably Instagram. You can just search my name, Claudia Woodham _, or TikTok, same handle. And I'm also on YouTube, Claudia Woodham. I've also got some travel vlogs on there as well, if you're interested in that kind of content.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening. I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you.